Hey everybody, how we doing? Today is January 22nd, and tomorrow my daughter Raylan is 10 months old, so it's already been almost a year, which also brings us to almost coming up on a year with the Farmall H project. And I was talking with Richard, OldFarmJunk101. A lot of you guys know his channel. If you haven't been to his channel, you definitely got to check it out. He's always wrenching on another project. So I think right now he's working on a cock shut in a co-op, and working on getting at least one of the two running, so making one good tractor out of two. But he I know that he's got a lot of parts laying around, and he's the guy that supplied us with a good governor for the H. And we got to talking, and mentioned that I needed some more parts, and he offered to go out and take a look to see what he had, and lo and behold, he had everything we needed. So I'll kind of give you a good glimpse as to what he sent over. We've got basically what I needed was a good clutch cross shaft, or the clutch fork cross shaft, the brake pedal and clutch pedal cross shaft, and then a belt pulley drive shaft, because this end here on mine, where it rides inside a bushing in the housing, was completely chewed up. The bushing was pretty much junk. I mean, it was wore away to nothing really. And he sent this whole lot of parts. He sent the clutch pedal, the brake pedals, the clutch throw-all bearing and yoke, the springs for both brakes, the actuating rod for the clutch from the pedal to the clutch fork cross shaft, the throw-all bearing fork, the belt pulley shaft. He really went above and beyond for this project, both with the governor and with all of these parts. So I got to give a big thank you to Richard over at OldFarmJunk101. There's going to be a link below in the description for his channel. Definitely go check his stuff out. I think he's got like 100 more videos than I do, and he's always wrenching on something. So go check his stuff out, and a big thank you to Richard. I can't express my thanks enough for this, for the donations and the help that you've provided. So moving on from there, I spoke with Charlie over at Charlie's Repair, and he makes alternator brackets and conversion kits and sells them as complete kits for Farmalls and a couple other tractors, I believe, but mainly Farmalls. Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to give him a big shout out because he makes a alternator bracket for the alternator that I installed on the H. And I asked him, you know, what it would cost for just the brackets, because I had used, if you guys remember, I had used the factory bracket, and I just made my own spacers and did some things from there, used threaded rod. And I told him about the project, and he was actually very willing to help out. And he, if you guys want to take a look, he sent out the alternator mount bracket and the adjustment bracket for the alternator. There is his contact information, but I'll put his website below as well, so you guys can check out what he's got. And I got to give a big thanks to Charlie. So all this stuff arrived within the last 24 hours. And then I was checking the mail today, and out on my front step was a huge box. And I'm like, what in the heck is this now? So I had been talking back and forth with a friend of mine that I made over YouTube. His name is Craig. and he's been restoring a Massey 22, I believe is the model. And we've been just bouncing, you know, conversations back and forth. And he mentioned that if a guy wanted to send me something, where would he send it? So as you guys know, I always put emphasis on the fact that I don't really ask for anything from anybody. And the fact that you guys are willing to send me this stuff and help me along in creating a better work environment is pretty awesome. But I'll just let this speak for itself. Craig sent me this, which is a Craftsman propane powered heater for the garage. So I think Craig's trying to tell me something. Either one, I need to get heat in here, or two, we need to start making progress on the H. But now I got to put this together, which is going to help out huge in the shop. So thank you very much, Craig, for the heater. Luckily today it's not it's not as cold. It's probably in the upper 20s, maybe even lower 30s today. So it's not very cold, but we're kind of still at a standstill just because I have to clean parts before I can really start making more progress. I have to get this this belt pulley housing clean, and then it's just going to be sandblasted over at Rudy's in his cabinet real quick, and then that can go back together and get reassembled. From there, it's just the hydraulic pump. So, and that really all we're going to do is put a new seal in the drive and a new gasket from the pump to the reservoir and clean out the reservoir, and that's it. So that is going to be really simple. Shouldn't take very long at all. And it's just cleaning parts that we're waiting for. My cousin and I both have conflicting schedules, so sometimes it's difficult for us to line things up. Plus, he's got a ton of his own projects. He's restoring a vintage Polaris snowmobile right now, and he's just started working on a Peterbilt semi-truck to restore. So I think it's a 1985 359 or 379. I think it's a 379. I don't know. It's one of those two. But it's got a cat motor in it, and it's he told me that it's known as the Corvette of semi-trucks because of the way the dash is in it. It's very similar to a vintage Corvette in the styling. So a lot of you semi-truck buffs, you'll know what I'm talking about. So he's working on restoring that as well, on top of his Polaris snowmobile restorations and just trying to live so and work. But that's where we're at. We just got to clean parts, and then we can make progress. But I'm just trying to line up some time to go down to a shop and get it done. So I also had a viewer ask me some questions on the equipment I use for filming. So let's go inside, and I've got everything laid out on the table, and I'll show you guys what I use for filming and the program that I use to edit my videos. But huge thank you to Richard, Old Farm Junk 101. Huge thank you. Charlie at Charlie's Repair, big thank you. And then Craig, I just want to say thanks for sending out the heater, man. It's going to help a lot on those brisk days. So let's go on inside. Alright guys, we're back inside now, and I've got kind of everything laid out on the table that I use. I do have a bunch of extra stuff, but most of it I never use. So what I'm going to talk about first is the camera I started with. The camera I started with was a GoPro Hero 2, and this one worked very well up until the original battery took a dump, basically. Ever since then, I've bought probably 2 or 3 replacement batteries, and I cannot keep this camera working to save my life. So when that happened, my wife actually bought me a birthday gift and got me the GoPro Hero Plus, which is kind of an entry-level GoPro. The camera is not removable from the case, so it's a fixed unit. You can't do anything except change out the rear door and film with it. It's kind of a point shoot type GoPro. So this one worked really well up until we went to Andover, South Dakota to see the Case 150 unveiling, and that one, that show is where I started to have issues with this. So thankfully I had my cell phone as a backup, and I used that, and I still use it as a backup whenever I have a dead battery with a camera or some other issue. I don't use GoPros to take photographs generally because they have a very wide angle lens. If I'm going to take photographs, I usually use my cell phone. So, and it actually works out pretty well. The camera I'm using now is a GoPro Hero 6 Black, and I got this probably last year, just before threshing show season maybe, or last spring I think, and it's worked out quite well, and I haven't had a whole lot of issues with it. Any of these cameras in the cold, I think pretty much any camera in the cold, you're going to have battery life issues. As soon as you start getting, below 30 degrees, 20 degrees, the batteries really die quickly when you're filming. So something to keep in mind. But the GoPros are great because there's a ton of mounts for them. Plus, they're kind of the pioneers in the small digital camera market. They got really good audio. I have thought about getting the external microphone adapter for the GoPro and getting an external mic, but it just hasn't. I've read a lot of reviews on it, and it doesn't seem seems like there's a lot of good and a lot of bad. So I'm really hesitant on spending it. I think it's $50 just for the adapter, and that doesn't include any microphones or any microphone mounts. So I'm really just holding off on that because I think so far this camera has worked really well. But from there, let's talk about some of the mounts. Again, this is a bag full of different like adhesive mounts, stuff that you would tape onto like a motorcycle helmet or something like that. Some type of mounts that you're going to leave in place permanently. I don't really use anything in this bag. So I've also got a large suction cup mount. This works great if you're using this for a car, or if you're putting it on a nice painted surface on a tractor. It doesn't really damage or scratch any surface as long as there isn't any dirt on there, and it won't move. This thing is very, very strong. So I use this somewhat frequently. The only issue that I do have on occasion is vibration. So as you can see here, this suction cup, even when you put it down on something, I don't have anything to stick it to right offhand, but when you put it on something, there's still quite a bit of shake in it. So on old tractors it works okay, but there is a lot of vibration with old tractors, especially with the higher RPM ranges, or mid to high RPMs. That's when you really get a lot of vibrations. So especially when they're working hard, like if you're taking it to a plow day or something and you use this suction cup mount, that definitely vibrates a lot more under a load. So another one that I use pretty frequently, or I used to use pretty frequently, was this flexible tripod mount. You can wrap it around anything, really. So I've used this to put around, round bars that are larger in diameter. I've clamped it on just random things. I've put it in trees and done drive-bys with the tractor. you know, clamped it on a branch or something like that. This one has seen a lot of road. A lot of these white rings are rubber grips, and a lot of them are starting to flake off, probably due to being exposed to hot and cold, plus oil and gas, I'm sure have taken their toll on that. So it does have a quick removable head on it. So, well, this one's probably pretty well frozen in place because I never take it off, but you can slide this head out of the bracket. And I think this was only like $10 on Amazon. So that's a useful one. I've also got a head mount that I use if I'm going to be doing a lot of looking forward type filming, like walking around threshing shows and stuff. I'll use the head mount. Otherwise, if I got to do a lot of head turning, I don't use this, simply because people get dizzy. You know, they're watching your video and they're playing it back, and all they see is you looking around, and it doesn't really give a good perspective with the head mount. But there is good uses for it. If you're in a stationary position while you're working on something, you can put this on your head and tilt the camera down so you can see everything you're working on. So the head mount does have a good purpose that it serves. My favorite one to use while I'm wrenching is this chest mount. So it's a big buckle assembly. It goes around your back. You put it on your chest, and then your camera goes right here. This is my favorite one to use while I'm wrenching, because your chest doesn't really move that much. Your arms move, your head moves, but your chest stays pretty stationary. So I can put the camera right on my chest and work right in front of where the camera is, and you guys can see a lot of close-up detail in that. I think it works really great. And let's see, driving tractors, this would work really good if you wanted like an operator's view. The head mount would work really good if you're just going to be looking forward, but if you're going to be doing a lot of turning and backing up, like when I'm snow plowing, the chest mount would be a good one to use for an operator's view. But that's all of these mounts that I've got. There's one more that I'll show you in just a second, but it's currently in use, so I have to take the camera out of it and I'll show you. Okay, this is the last mount that I have that I actually have two of that I really like. This is the one I use the most. It's a rubber coated magnet mount, and this thing is strong. I recommend, if you get one of these, do not put it on a surface completely flat where you can't get underneath it, because you pretty much need a screwdriver to get this thing off of like a hood or a fender. So if I'm going to use this on a painted surface, I always put it so there's an edge sticking off so I can get my hand or my thumb underneath it to pry it up. So these magnets are really great for a lot of things. So anything you can stick it to that's metal. But another question that I had from a viewer was, what program do I use to edit my videos? And when I first started YouTube, I used just the free program that comes with the Windows on my computer. It was called Windows Movie Maker, and it worked great up until this Windows 10 update. Everything apparently that Windows Movie Maker was no longer supported, so everything kind of went kaput when that the Windows 10 installed on my computer. So I had to go and get a new editing program, and I picked up the Sony Vegas. I think it's the Platinum Pro 15 edition, and I don't know how many versions are after that now. I know there's at least a 16 or a 17. So, but I run the Platinum 15 Sony Vegas, and it works great. I've never had any issues with it. there's way more things that I can do with it that are beyond my knowledge, and I'll probably never know how to use every feature of that system. But my videos are pretty basic, so, and I like to keep it that way because I don't I don't have enough time really to spend editing all these videos. You know, I spend enough time making them and editing the way it is. So for me to really get fancy and understand all of the ins and outs of that program, that editing software, it's just, I don't have time, especially with a 10-month-old. So, but those are the systems I use as far as my videoing, and that's all I've really got. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the first and second part of this video. Again, there was no wrenching, but at least we got some good shout outs and a lot of good contributions. So special thanks to Richard at OldFarmJunk101. Check out his channel in the links below. If you need any 12-volt conversion kits, or Charlie at Charlie's Repair also offers splitting stands and engine, or not engine, but like rear end cradles and stuff like that. So if you need anything like that, check out his website. That'll be in the link below. And then another big thank you and shout out to Craig for the heater for the garage. So that's all I've got, and let's hope we can get some wrenching done in the near future here. All right, take care, guys. See you later.